Thracians were warriors, poets, and kings. From the legendary Spartacus, who defied Rome, to Socrates III, who fought to keep Thrace free, these people shaped the course of ancient history. They were feared for their ferocity in battle, admired for their gold craftsmanship, and yet their legacy remains largely forgotten. Who were the Thracians? How did they interact with their powerful neighbors, the Greeks, Scythians, Dacians, and Romans? And what traces of their world still survive today? This is the story of the Thracians, the lost warriors of the ancient Balkans. The origin of the Thracians is still debated. Their name appears in Greek mythology, linked to Thrax, the son of Ares, the god of war. Others say they descend from Thrace, the daughter of the ocean god Okeanos. What we do know is that their culture stretched across a vast region, from Bulgaria and Romania to northern Greece, Turkey, and parts of North Macedonia. Some Thracians even settled in Bithynia, in what is now northwest Turkey. But who were they really? The Thracians were not a single, united people. Instead, they were a collection of tribes loosely connected by culture, language, and warfare. While the Greeks built city-states and the Romans forged an empire, the Thracians remained a tribal society, ruled by warlords and warrior kings. Despite their fragmented political structure, the Thracians were everywhere in ancient history. Homer mentions them in the Iliad, where they appear as allies of the Trojans. Some historians believe they had Indo-European roots, possibly linked to the Dacians or the Scythians. Others argue they were indigenous to the Balkans, their presence dating back thousands of years before written history. One thing is clear: the Thracians were a force to be reckoned with. For centuries, the Thracians were at the center of great conflicts. They traded with the Greeks, adopted some of their customs, and even influenced Greek religion. The cult of Bendis, a Thracian goddess, became so popular in Athens that she was officially recognized in the city's pantheon. Greek historians like Herodotus and Thucydides wrote about the Thracians, often portraying them as wild, warlike, and untamed. But the Thracians were not just warriors. They were skilled artisans. Some of the greatest gold treasures in European history come from Thracian tombs, filled with intricately designed gold and silver artifacts, showing a highly developed artistic tradition. Their lands were rich in resources, gold, silver, and iron, making them prime targets for conquest. The Persians invaded in the 5th century BCE, turning parts of Thrace into a satrapy of the Achaemenid Empire. Some Thracian nobles adopted Persian customs, but others resisted fiercely. The Persian king Xerxes passed through Thrace on his way to invade Greece, but after his defeat, Thrace became a battleground once again. The Athenians and Spartans also fought for influence in Thrace, especially because of its strategic grain supply and access to the Black Sea. The Macedonians, under Philip II and Alexander the Great, eventually conquered Thrace, incorporating its warriors into their armies. Some of Alexander's most fearsome cavalry came from Thracian tribes, proving their value as elite warriors. Unlike the Greeks, the Thracians did not build large cities. Instead, they lived in fortified hilltop settlements, while their nobles controlled fortresses and large estates. However, in the 5th century BCE, one Thracian kingdom rose above the rest, the Odrysian kingdom, founded by King Taras. His son, Spartacus, expanded the kingdom's power, forging alliances with Athens during the Peloponnesian War. But Thracian unity was short-lived. Their tribal nature and internal conflicts prevented them from creating a lasting empire. After the death of Spartacus, the kingdom fragmented, allowing Macedon and later Rome to dominate Thrace. When Rome conquered Macedon in 146 BCE, Thrace became one of their next targets. Some Thracians resisted fiercely, most famously Spartacus, a Thracian gladiator who led the greatest slave revolt in Roman history. By 46 CE, Rome had fully annexed Thrace, turning it into a province of the empire. Over time, Thracian culture slowly faded as its people adopted Roman customs. However, their fighting spirit remained, with many Thracians serving in the Roman legions. Despite being described as barbaric by Greek and Roman writers, the Thracians had a rich spiritual life. They worshiped gods of war, the sky, and nature, many of whom remain mysterious to us today. The Thracian horseman, a divine warrior often depicted in carvings, suggests a deep equestrian culture, possibly influenced by nomadic steppe peoples like the Scythians. The god Sabazios, associated with the sky and horses, was widely worshipped, even influencing later Roman and Christian beliefs. One of the most intriguing Thracian figures is Zalmoxis, a god, or perhaps a deified philosopher king. Some ancient accounts claim he was a mortal who achieved immortality, teaching his followers that death was just a transition. His cult shares striking similarities with Orphism and Pythagorean philosophy, raising questions about whether Thracian spiritual beliefs influenced Greek thought. The Thracians also believed in ritual feasting, sacrifices, and elaborate burial rites. Their tombs, filled with gold, armor, and chariots, suggest a belief in an afterlife where warriors continued their battles beyond death. By the 6th century CE, the Thracians had largely disappeared as a distinct people. They were absorbed by the Slavs, Greeks, and Romans, merging into the populations that would later form the Bulgarians, Romanians, and modern Greeks. However, their legacy lives on. Their gold treasures still dazzle archaeologists. Their tombs stand as reminders of a forgotten age of kings and warriors. And their greatest warrior, Spartacus, remains an enduring symbol of defiance against oppression. The Thracians were not just footnotes in history, they were shapers of it, a people of warriors, mystics, and artisans whose influence stretched across the ancient world. And though their voices may have faded, their stories live on, waiting to be rediscovered.